A man betrayed by fate, a millionaire shrouded in mystery, and a dog that saw everything. When the past returns unexpectedly, the truth becomes the only thing impossible to escape. The cloudy sky of New York City heralded a tense Friday night in March. The lights of the buildings reflected in the East River as a storm formed in the distance. Atop the Millennium Tower, one of the most luxurious skyscrapers in Manhattan, Michael Carter observed the city from his wheelchair, feeling the cold wind cut through his skin. Since losing the use of his legs in an accident 5 years ago, his perception of the world had changed drastically. The business empire he had built now seemed more fragile, like the dark clouds approaching on the horizon. The weight in his chest wasn't just anxiety, it was a premonition that had consumed him for weeks. Gregory Thompson, his former partner, and for years his best friend, had set up this meeting. The message was clear. We need to resolve this once and for all. Michael knew exactly what that meant. The last few months had been a chess game between the two, each moving their pieces carefully, preparing for the decisive moment. The sound of the elevator announced Gregory's arrival. Impeccable in his Italian suit, he emerged onto the rooftop with the same confident posture as always. The smile on his lips, once familiar and friendly, now carried a hint of cynicism that Michael had learned to despise. Still prefer dramatic rooftop meetings, don't you, Michael? Gregory adjusted the golden pin on his lapel, a piece he always wore as his lucky charm. Some things never change. Let's get straight to the point, Gregory. What are these documents you say you have? Documents that can change everything. Gregory took an envelope from his briefcase. All your questionable operations from the last 3 years, every dubious decision, every shady deal, it's all here. Michael maintained a neutral expression, even as he felt his heart race. And what do you intend to do with that? Depends on you. We can resolve this like two civilized men. Gregory approached the edge of the terrace, observing the city. Transfer 51% of the company's shares to me, and these documents disappear. Simple as that. Thunder echoed in the distance, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Michael turned his chair, facing his former friend. You really think I didn't prepare for this moment? That I don't have my own cards up my sleeve? Gregory's smile faltered for an instant. What are you talking about? I have interesting documents too, Gregory, about your secret meetings with our competitors, about offshore accounts you maintain in tax havens, about the real reason for the bankruptcy of our branch in Boston. The rain intensified and the two men stared at each other in silence. The tension was palpable, charged by years of friendship, transformed into distrust and betrayal. You're bluffing, Gregory said, but his voice betrayed his uncertainty. Want to risk it? Want to find out how much I know about your schemes with the Silver Corporation? About the inflated contracts, about the bribes? Gregory's face paled. The mention of Silver Corporation had hit a raw nerve. He hadn't expected Michael to know about. That's why, how did you? I may be in a wheelchair, Gregory, but my mind is as sharp as ever, and I have people loyal to me, people who still believe in integrity. At that moment, the rooftop door opened again. Sarah, Michael's secretary, appeared accompanied by Max, the dog she had rescued from the streets the week before. The animal, a medium-sized mixed breed with golden fur, immediately fixed its gaze on Gregory, growling softly. Mr. Carter, Sarah called, her voice tense. There's an urgent call from the board. This isn't over, Michael, Gregory said, retreating towards the elevator. You won't like what's coming. When Gregory disappeared into the elevator, the storm finally broke over the city. Michael remained motionless, feeling the rain on his face, while Max approached, resting his head on his knee. What do you think, buddy? Michael whispered, stroking the dog's head. What secrets is he still hiding? Max barked once, as if understanding the gravity of the situation. On the horizon, lightning continued to cut through the sky, foreshadowing that the real storm was yet to come. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you're watching us from. We'll continue. The next morning, the office of Carter Enterprises buzzed with its usual bustle. On the 28th floor, Michael analyzed financial reports in his office. trying to find clues that could explain Gregory's threats. Sarah entered silently, bringing a cup of coffee and a folder with urgent documents. "Did you manage to do the survey?" "I asked for," Michael asked without taking his eyes off the computer screen. "Yes, sir." Sarah placed the folder on the desk. "And I found something interesting. In the last 6 months, there have been a series of unregistered meetings between Gregory and executives from Silver Corporation, outside office hours in discrete locations." Michael finally looked up. "And what about the suspicious transfers?" "We identified significant movements to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. The pattern started exactly 3 months after you had the accident." The revelation hit Michael like a punch to the stomach. The timing wasn't a coincidence. While he was in the hospital struggling to adapt to his new reality, his best friend was apparently already plotting to take control of the company. "He waited for me to be most vulnerable," Michael muttered, more to himself than to Sarah. "Used my recovery as an opportunity." Max, who was sleeping in his corner of the office, suddenly raised his head, his ears alert. Seconds later, the door opened, and Hannah Thompson, Gregory's wife, entered without being announced. Her expression was a mixture of concern and determination. "We need to talk, Michael," she said, closing the door behind her. "It's about Gregory. There's something you need to know." Sarah made a move to leave, but Hannah gestured for her to stay. "You should hear this too, Sarah. In fact, the more people who know the truth, the better." Hannah sat down, her hands trembling slightly as she opened her purse. "I found this in Gregory's office last night." She placed a flash drive on the desk. "There are emails, conversations, documents. He's not acting alone, Michael. There are powerful people behind him, people who want more than just your company." "What are you talking about, Hannah?" "Silver Corporation is just the tip of the iceberg. They're part of a larger group, an international consortium that has its eye on Carter Enterprises' expansion projects. The port you're building in Atlantic City, the facilities in Philadelphia, they want all of it." Michael turned his chair to the window, observing the city below. The day was clear, contrasting with the previous night's storm, but the dark clouds of betrayal continued to hover over his head. "Why are you telling me this, Hannah? Why betray your own husband?" "Because the Gregory I knew and loved no longer exists," her voice faltered. "Power has transformed him into someone I don't recognize, and after discovering that he... She couldn't complete the sentence. Max approached Hannah, resting his head on her knee as if sensing her distress. She absent-mindedly stroked the dog. "That he what, Hannah?" Sarah asked gently. "That he might have been responsible for Michael's accident." The words came out as a whisper. "I found old emails, conversations about creating an opportunity. At the time, I thought they were just business plans, but now..." The silence that followed was deafening. Michael felt the world spin around him. The accident that had changed his life, the car without brakes, the sharp curve on the highway, hadn't been a fatality. "There's more," Hannah continued, her voice firmer now. "Gregory is planning something for tonight. I heard him talking on the phone about a grand finale. He mentioned the Millennium Tower rooftop again." "He wants to meet me there," Michael concluded, "to finish what he started 5 years ago." "You can't go alone," Sarah protested. "It's obviously a trap." "It's exactly because it's a trap that I need to go." Michael turned to them. "But this time, I'll be prepared. Hannah, I need you to tell me everything you know, every detail, every suspicion." As Hannah began her account, Max kept his eyes fixed on the city outside, as if sensing that tonight would bring revelations that would forever change the fate of everyone present. The truth, long buried beneath layers of lies and betrayals, was about to come to light. As the afternoon progressed in the office of Carter Enterprises, Hannah continued her account, revealing a web of intrigues much more complex than anyone could have imagined. Seated in front of Michael, her hands held a now-cold cup of tea, while Sarah took meticulous notes. "It was during the trip to Dubai, 3 months before your accident," Hannah explained, her voice trembling slightly. "Gregory had a series of meetings that weren't on his official schedule. At the time, I thought it was strange, but he said they were just preliminary negotiations for future investments." Michael adjusted his wheelchair, moving closer to the desk. "And what changed? Why do these meetings seem suspicious now? I found records of bank transfers. Hannah pulled out more documents from her bag. Large sums were moved through shell companies, and all these companies have one thing in common. They're controlled by a group called Global Investments Consortium. Sarah, who had been typing rapidly on her laptop, paused her activity. That name, it appeared in the documents I gathered this morning. They have connections with Silver Corporation. Exactly, Hannah confirmed. And that's not all. The consortium is behind a series of hostile takeovers in recent years. They approach expanding companies, create internal conflicts, and then take control when the company is vulnerable. Max, who had been quiet until then, suddenly started barking at the window. The afternoon sun was already beginning to set, painting the New York sky with orange hues. There's one more thing, Hannah continued, her voice now almost a whisper. The night before your accident, Gregory received a call. I was in the next room and overheard part of the conversation. He said something about making sure everything looks like an accident and the timing needs to be perfect. Michael felt a chill run down his spine. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together, forming a disturbing image. The brakes. On my car, he muttered. The curve on the highway. It wasn't a random mechanical failure, was it? Hannah shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. I found records of payments to a mechanic. The garage closed soon after, and the owner disappeared from the country. I only discovered this now, searching through Gregory's old files. Sarah stood up abruptly, walking to the window. But why now? Why is Gregory forcing a confrontation at this particular moment? The port project, Michael responded, understanding dawning on his face. The final licenses come out next week. Once approved, the company's value will triple. And there's more, Hannah added. The consortium doesn't just want the port. They found out about the secret sustainable energy project you're developing, the technology that could revolutionize the energy sector. Michael turned his chair, facing the city outside. The clean energy project was his greatest pride, something he had been quietly developing for years. Only a small group knew of its existence. How did they find out about the project? He asked, more to himself than to the others. There's an infiltrator, Hannah revealed. Someone within your closest team is passing information to Gregory, and this person will be on the rooftop tonight. The silence that followed was interrupted only by the soft sound of Max's breathing, who was now sitting next to Michael, like an attentive guardian. I need names, Hannah, Michael said firmly. Who is the infiltrator? Hannah took a deep breath, looking nervously at the door. That's why I came in person. I couldn't risk this information leaking. The infiltrator is... At that moment, the office door opened abruptly. Richard Torres, the company's CFO and Michael's close friend for 2 decades, entered hurriedly. Michael, we need to talk urgently about the port project. I just received a concerning call from the bank. He stopped upon seeing Hannah, his expression subtly changing. Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were in a meeting. Max began to growl softly, his eyes fixed on Richard. Hannah visibly paled. Richard, Michael said calmly, carefully observing everyone's reactions in the room. What a coincidence that you mention the port right now. The air in the room became dense with unspoken tension as the sun continued, its descending path on the horizon. In a few hours, everyone would be on the rooftop of the Millennium Tower, where secrets guarded for years would finally come to light. But who would really be on whose side when the truth was revealed? The office plunged into a tense silence after Richard's departure. Hannah was visibly shaking, while Sarah exchanged significant looks with Michael. Max remained restless, his eyes fixed on the door where the CFO had exited. It's him, isn't it? Michael asked Hannah, his voice controlled. Richard is the infiltrator. Hannah nodded slowly. He's been meeting with Gregory for months. I found records of bank transfers to an account in the Cayman Islands in his wife's name. Richard has been passing information about all important projects, especially about the sustainable energy technology. Michael closed his eyes for a moment, absorbing the impact of the betrayal. Richard had been his friend since college, the best man at his wedding, the person who stood by his side throughout his recovery after the accident. How could I have been so blind? He murmured. You trusted him, Sarah responded softly. We all did. We need to act fast, Hannah intervened. The rooftop meeting. Gregory doesn't intend to negotiate. He's going to use the documents he has against you to force the sale of the company. And with Richard on his side, he has access to information that can destroy everything you've built. Michael turned his chair to the window, watching the sun beginning to set. His hands gripped the arms of the chair tightly. Not this time, he said with determination. I won't let them destroy everything again. What do you plan to do? Sarah asked, approaching. I'm going to use their own trap against them. Michael turned to face them. Hannah, I need you to return home and act normally. Gregory can't suspect that you've alerted us. And what about Richard? Hannah questioned. Leave him to me, Sarah intervened. I can monitor his movements discreetly. I have access to all the building's cameras through the security system. Michael nodded, his mind working quickly. We need concrete proof of the consortium's activities. Hannah, that flash drive you brought, is there any way to get more information? I can try, she replied. Gregory keeps a personal laptop in his home office. He never lets anyone get near it, but tonight he'll be busy with the rooftop meeting. That would be too risky, Sarah protested. If he discovers, it's our only chance, Hannah insisted. I've been living with guilt for 5 years, knowing I could have prevented Michael's accident if I had noticed the signs earlier. I won't make the same mistake twice. Max barked softly, as if approving Hannah's courage. Michael observed the dog for a moment, an idea forming in his mind. Sarah, do we still have those micro cameras we used at the last board meeting? Yes, sir, they're practically imperceptible. Good. We'll need them. Michael began to outline his plan. Hannah, you go back home as if nothing happened. Sarah, I want you to prepare the Millennium Tower rooftop. Install the cameras at strategic points. We need to record everything that's said tonight. And what about Richard? Sarah asked. Keep him busy with the port reports. He can't suspect that we know about his involvement. And one more thing. Michael paused, stroking Max's head. Our friend here is going to help